Hello. Well, you know, I don't know how many of you people had parents who, if you were crying or whining or something, they'd say something like, "Stop that, or I'll give you something to really cry about." Well, there's that, or there's a situation where to prevent somebody getting one disease, they give them a worse disease. Well, this is one of those examples. This is an article in the Telegraph. Modern feminism, you will be interested to know, is racist and only focuses on straight white middle class women. And this is a message that was given to pupils in Highgate School in London. I don't know what the fees are for Highgate School, but I'd say they were probably in thousands. And this is what the parents are paying to have their daughters taught. Highgate School, accused of upholding a rape culture, told pupils to use their privilege for black, gay and trans feminism. Modern feminism is mainly focused on the struggles facing straight, white, middle-class women, which suggests only they face sexism, private school pupils have been told. The message was delivered, oh, here's the fees. The message was delivered during an anti-sexism forum hosted by the £22,000 a year Highgate School in North London. What's £22,000? $30,000? Maybe more. And the parents are shelling out this sort of money to have their daughters, or I don't know, boys too, I suppose, taught this terrible, pernicious rubbish. It's absolutely shocking. Staff and pupils organised the event last month as part of a drive to tackle sexist behaviour after the school was caught up in last year's Everyone's Invited scandal, in which students posted anonymous accounts of online sexual abuse. You know, online abuse of any sort is quite common. And I don't know where this abuse came from. It might have come from other pupils at the school, or it might have been from outside. But it's common everywhere. And telling the girls that their feminist ideals are not relevant is no way to help them in a situation where they're getting online sexual abuse as well. That's just abuse in the school. That's just saying to these girls, you're not important. Now, I don't know what the proportion is. I suppose Highgate School is in Highgate. There are very many white people in Highgate and a lot of very rich people because it's a very expensive area. But there will be a very wealthy people who are not white there as well. And some of those different groups will go to that school. And what they're doing is they're dividing the white pupils in that school from the pupils who are all very wealthy. They are all very privileged. And not through any fault. How do I put this? Being privileged is not a sin. Having rich parents is not a sin. It's how you live your life. If you live your life badly, that's a sin. And you can do that when you've got money, and you can do that when you don't have money. You just use different ways of wasting your time and being hurtful to other people. That's all. Evidence of materials used at the school's anti-sexism forum seen by the Telegraph has revealed how one presentation named "How Inclusive is Feminism" states that the primary focus of modern feminism is, now look, I don't know how you pronounce that, cishet, they make up words. I think you can tell when when there's something nasty going on, when they start making up words. White middle-class women. Cishet refers to those who identify with their birth sex and are heterosexual. Well, so that's me. And if you don't identify with your birth sex, that is, if there is something wrong with you. And if you're heterosexual, that is, if you are of what we might term normal sexuality, because, let's face it, more of the population has to be heterosexual in order for the population to proceed to another generation. So you could say that that is a fairly important sexual identity. I am not saying that people with other identities are to be bullied or coerced or punished, by the way. I am just saying that heterosexual behaviour is what has kept the human race going for several million years. However long we've been mammals. Oh dear. Evidence, let's see, where are we? The document claims that as a result, a notion has been created that only this group of women experience sexism. That's rubbish. You get all sorts, especially Labour politicians, talking about how Labour politicians... Let's start again. You get lots of black and ethnic minority politicians, journalists and actors talking about little else but how their experience has been one of prejudice and being held back by their colour or ethnic identity. Before adding that there can't be justice in feminism without brown, black, gay, trans, etc. feminism. No, there's only one thing, there's feminism. That's all, feminism. And I can't see what trans feminism has to do with anything at all. It doesn't make any sense. But then you do expect sense from something like this. The idea is to make these girls at that school feel uncertain of themselves. Do you know, witchcraft in the Middle Ages is an interesting case in point. There were many women who were midwives. They were always accused of witchcraft. And women who were healers. They knew the various medicinal properties of plants. And they would help. There were no doctors in those days. Well, not really. You know, some of the aristocrats might have people who call themselves doctors. But these women were, well, I suppose you could call them herbalists. And they were the ones that the villagers turned to when they needed some medical attention, and sometimes what they did worked and sometimes it didn't. But the point is, they were quite learned in their particular law, and the midwives were quite learned in their particular skill, just by virtue of experience. And in the Middle Ages, this was suspect. And everything that was levelled at women in the Middle Ages was a sort of attempt to make them feel insecure. Women were considered to be insatiably sexual, and they had to constantly guard themselves because they were the daughters of Eve. And midwives were, you know, they were witches, and herbalists, they were witches, and the women had to hide their knowledge, had to feel insecure about their place in the world. This was when the church was going a little bit nutty. The church was going through a time of neurosis, you might say. And because the church was dominated by men, then the rules that came down had to do with the control of women. That's what feminism is all about. Recognising that these things happen. I'm not saying that men are terrible. That, you know, men were just as much punished by these sorts of systems as women, but in different ways. And I'm just talking about the women right now. And the point is, women in the Middle Ages were encouraged to feel insecure in themselves, to feel like they were the devil's playground and they had to be careful of themselves all the time. And that's what this new religion is doing. Women after the 70s, maybe the 80s, they started to feel confident, secure and independent, and for some reason society just doesn't want that, so there's some sort of regression going on, and we're being encouraged to feel insecure in ourselves now and to feel like there's something wrong with us, and in this case it's, if we're feminists and secure in ourselves, then we're not being moral because we're not handing all our security over to our darker skinned sisters. There is only one feminism, and frankly, if white heterosexual middle class women can't be feminists, then neither can the BAME people either, the BAME women, because this is still a white middle class society here in this country. It's a complete disgrace, and they are doing untold damage to our society with this total nonsense. Here we are. The teacher, a teacher from a neighbouring school whose pupils attended the forum said she was equally concerned by the school's approach. My fundamental concern is that a school so widely criticised for the behaviour of some of the students in terms of sexual harassment and sexual assault should launch an anti-sexism forum that doesn't deal with those issues whatsoever, said the teacher, who, it says here, asked to remain anonymous, needed to remain anonymous. Yeah? Some of the pupils who attended may have been victims of that violence, so to have them sit there and say, maybe you aren't the concern here, let's talk about your privilege, seems incredibly wrong. Well, that's one woman who has the right idea. The teacher also questioned claims in the anti-sexism presentations that the media was creating a moral panic. Oh, yes, it is. By addressed issues such as men who identify as women being allowed in female changing rooms and children being permitted to change gender at school without parental consent. She said, they say there is a moral panic which is almost gaslighting of the students. Yeah, gaslighting, that's exactly the right words. More power to her elbow. Okay, so there was talk of girls getting abused by the boys at the school, and it was a well-known phenomenon, not sexual abuse, but just general bullying from boys when girls were in the same school. I'm a great believer in girls' schools. It has been said about schools that when boys get girls in their school, the boys do better than when they're on their own. But when there are girls, but the girls do better when they're in a girls' school on their own. It's just a matter of different ways of behaving, and I don't think that they should be in the same school. Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that, wouldn't I? I went to single-sex schools my whole life, and I was quite comfortable in those environments. Okay then, I am Graniopteryx. I am on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I am also on Twitter, Gab and Parler, where I am at Graniopteryx, and I always upload information about my latest videos on those platforms. Please like, share and subscribe to my videos. Support my channel if you can, and I'll see you next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Granbow with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.